This Rise and Shine podcast series has been made possible by the generosity of the Zeidelman Family Foundation, which is committed to the unity and continuity of the Jewish people through meaningful and relevant Jewish education and wisdom.
We go into this simple pine box, and we return our bodies to the land and our souls to the land of the souls where we came from. And if we're fortunate to have collected some diamonds, some mitzvahs during our time here, well, they are the currency of eternity.
This is Rise and Shine, a podcast that offers timeless wisdom and uplifting meditations to fill your heart, feed your soul, and start your day on a positive note. Here is Adrienne Gold-Davis.
So there's this story that I heard many years ago about a man who lived in dire poverty. He was struggling to feed his family and just to make ends meet. So he decided to travel beyond his land, try and seek his fortune somewhere else, and left his wife and his kids, and he set out in a little boat, hoping to be able to come back home and provide for all of them. So not a day into the journey on the sea, there was a great storm, of course, and it overtook his tiny vessel, and he ended up shipwrecked on a distant island. His boat crashed into the shore. It was merely this wooden box of a boat, and he arrived there wet and sort of slimy and disoriented and confused. So as he made his way in his now sodden coat towards the inlands, he discovered that the hillsides were sparkling with diamonds, not regular stones, brilliant diamonds of like multiple carats. So he reaches down and he shoves a small handful of them into his pockets, and he continues on until he finds the town. That night, as he looked to pay for his lodging, he reaches into his pocket to pay for the night's accommodation with one of the diamonds. And the desk clerk just laughed at him. "What are you doing?" he asked him with scorn. "You don't pay for your stay here with useless diamonds. The currency in this country is fish." Well, the man was shocked and horrified, but he promised the desk clerk he'd get a job the very next day and pay him in fish at the end of the day. So the desk clerk kindly said yes to him, and he showed the man to his room. And the very next day, this man found a decent job. He asked for an advance on his pay, and his employer actually gave it to him. See, this man was a talented craftsman, and soon he was earning more fish than he could ever have imagined. And as the days turned into weeks, turned into months, the man forgot about all but the currency of his new land. And he began to amass fish, lots and lots of fish, and he stored them in the hold of the new boat that he could finally afford to buy to replace his old one. So finally, a year passes, and the man decides to set out to his homeland, proud and ready to support his family. And so he does, and when he arrives at the harbor, his wife and his children are there to greet him. And excitedly, he brings them to the back of his boat, and he throws open the stinking hold of the boat. And the wife recoils. She asks him, "What will we do with all this spoiled fish?" And the man was mortified. You see, in his quest to acquire wealth, he had traded the opportunity to be truly wealthy with a currency that had no lasting value. And then in that moment, he remembered his old coat, and he reached into his pockets, and there was still a handful of diamonds there that he had collected on that very first day. And they were of enough value to keep him and his family, well, for the rest of their lives. But he understood in that moment how much more he could have had he not lost sight of the true currency of his life. Well, this story, this parable, it's a metaphor for our time here on earth. We come into this world with souls that were taught the meaning of life, the currency of life. We're here to collect mitzvahs, good deeds, to do acts of kindness and make connection. Because when we leave this world, they are the only thing we can take with us to the world to come. But as life goes on, we forget this. and we begin to amass the things that don't really carry value. We're buried in a white linen shroud. It has no pockets. That's to remind us that when we leave our bodies behind, we can take absolutely no material things along with us. We go into this simple pine box, and we return our bodies to the land and our souls to the land of the souls where we came from. And if we're fortunate to have collected some diamonds, some mitzvahs, during our time here, well, they are the currency of eternity. So I want to tell you something. My 90-year-old mother sat at my Rosh Hashanah table this year after a year of illness and treatments that would have felled a lesser woman. But she fought and she endured, and she has, thank God, lived to see another year in beauty and in grace and in gratitude. At the table that night, I asked her a question, actually from one of the Momentum Rosh Hashanah conversation cards. I asked her, "Mom, what did you learn this year?" And she immediately answered, "Adrienne," she said, "it's really very simple. When I think of how my family has been with me this year, the care, the attention, the joyful giving that my kids bestowed upon me, I know that there is only one thing in the world to be grateful for, and that is for the relationships I have invested in and the people I have loved who have carried me through this storm." All of us will encounter rough seas at some point in our lives. We'll become confused about why we're here. We'll try and forge our self-concept on nothing more than fish. We'll define ourselves by our physical and material achievements rather than our spiritual and interpersonal aspirations. We will forget that achievements are tied to the ego, but that aspirations, they're tied to the soul. The days are long, but the years are short. Our job is to remind ourselves constantly that while our bodies are physically finite, our souls are eternal, and that when we die, the diamonds we collected here will accompany us and pay dividends. This week, can you examine your life's currency? Are you hustling for worthiness through the external markings of success? Is it youth or beauty or wealth or education? Figure out the currency of your worldview, and then listen to this story again and grab as many diamonds as you can while you're still here. You see, the thing about the external markings of success is that they're perfect opportunities to collect diamonds as well. And that's in the way you interact with those around you. May we mine for human dignity, for wisdom, and for love. And may we sparkle from all of our efforts.
Thanks for listening to Rise and Shine. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to Momentum Podcasts on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Join Adrienne again next time for more timeless wisdom and uplifting meditations that fill your heart, feed your soul, and start your day on a positive note.
This podcast was sponsored by the Zeidelman Family Foundation. Spread the wisdom. Inspire Jewish individuals around the globe by supporting Momentum's podcasts. To sponsor, contact podcast@momentumunlimited.org. You're listening to a Momentum podcast. For unlimited inspiration, wisdom, and empowerment, visit momentumunlimited.org.